gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 479. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Well, not as always. I wasn't here last time.
As always! When I introed Andrew, I think I said as always. It's just part of the, it can't change.
Yeah.
I can't change the script now. It's built into me. It's just...
I recovered from COVID too, Justin.
You did it. COVID-2 Electric Boogaloo. You're back.
Yay.
You're on your feet. Well, not right now, but generally you have feet-related abilities.
Yes.
They're restored.
I have to say,
you had the Paxlovid.
Yeah, I have to say, I have a lot of complaints about the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry in general.
Mm-hmm.
However, whatever person or peoples came up with that Paxlovid cocktail, they know what they're doing. They got their shit together. That worked fast.
Well, because also like the last time you got sick with COVID before, and you were like real
it was like
sick.
a month.
You were like, Courtney was the same way. Like she got like, I was like, man, do we need to go to the hospital? Like she got very sick. Like I got pretty sick. I like had the flu for a few days, but you and her both. It was like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like,
It was a couple of weeks before I started to feel normal, and then I'd still lost my voice for another week or so after that. This time, I was feeling real bad, and they prescribed me the Paxlovid, and like 5 hours later, I felt like a normal person again, just with a cough. Yeah.
Wow, that's nuts.
Right?
That's nuts. Well, that's the end of the sponsorship for the show.
Pfizer, please send the money directly to Retro Warriors.
Yeah, Pfizer, you just want to mail us a check, or like I don't know how this works or whatever.
I mean, the package said that it was going to cost $1,700 for that Paxlovid. So if you just want to send that $1,700 right back to us, that's fine.
Can I just say for anyone for anyone that thinks our health industry isn't completely fucked up, they tried to charge you $1,700.
Yes.
And then went, oh, you have insurance. Never mind, it's $60.
No, it's $25.
$25. Like, that's a pretty big discrepancy.
Yeah. It was.
And I know your insurance didn't pay, $1,600 and
that's the best part.
$75.
So it said it was going to cost $1,725, I think.
Yeah.
And then after the insurance, it was $25, and then you can look at your insurance statement, and it says we paid $600, you paid $25. I'm like, what happened to that other $1,100?
Right? Was that just bonus money they didn't really need? Like, what the fuck's happening?
Was that the punishment money for not having insurance? Like, where did that go?
That's the poor tax. They're like, oh, you're poor and you don't have insurance? It's this much, you piece of shit.
Right?
And then you go, no, I'm at least, not that poor. And then they go, oh, okay, well then it's affordable.
Yeah, and I like what I've read is, well, that was money that your insurance provider negotiated away. They negotiated the price.
They negotiated in 4 seconds while you're standing at the pharmacy counter.
And my thought is, what the fuck is CVS doing? Why aren't they negotiating these prices?
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, probably not something we should get into with our level of expertise, which is negative expertise.
Us video game podcasters, we're experts in healthcare pricing.
Yeah, tune into your retro video game show for comments on the healthcare industry, an industry neither of us work in or near or have any knowledge of. I'll say this. I don't even know how insurance works. Every time we have to get new insurance, my wife's like, will you look at these plans? And I look at them and then I just go, I'm too stupid. I don't know what any of this is. What the fuck is a deductible? Why do I pay it? Isn't that what a bill is? I have no idea how. I understand it as much as I understand fractions.
I hate deductibles.
Which is to say, not at all.
I am fully aware of fractions and deductibles. I was a math person.
Oh my God. No. Anyway, so yeah, Saturn is back. Andrew has gone back into the case that we keep him in.
Yeah.
He's emergency.
The emergency break glass Andrew case.
He messaged me this morning and he was like, I was kind of half expecting you to tell me that Saturn got abducted by aliens or got COVID again and we have to do a show. Because Andrew had to step in for that. That was like 3 episodes in a row, I think he had to step in.
Was it?
You were here because before the me and Andrew only session, before, me and Andrew also did an episode, but you were there. You were present.
One, yeah.
No, it was Oblivion. We did Oblivion.
Oh, right. It's the same game.
No, it is not.
Same game.
Not. So yeah, you're back. My week. I'm gonna talk about my week now. I'm still playing the Age of Empires 4. It is good. I'm playing the campaign. I don't know if I mentioned it before on the previous show or not. I think I did because I was complaining about Sins of a Solar Empire 2 and their pricing model. And I was like, I'm going to give that money to a different real-time strategy game to punish you, Paradox.
I'll give it to the Microsoft Corporation. They need it more.
I'm going to send it to Steve Ballmer. Because that's how it works.
Yeah. Steve Ballmer, who doesn't even work at Microsoft anymore.
Shh. It's okay. Nobody knows that. Everyone still thinks that Bill Gates is there too.
That's true.
So just let them.
Right.
Just let them think that. And then Age of Mythology Retold came out, the remake of Age of Mythology, and I had forgotten that was coming out, and I picked that up, having never played the original.
Oh, that's good. It was a fun game.
I never played it, and let me tell you, it's a fucking treat. It is, man, it's real good. It's a lot of fun. It adds. Now again, I've not played the original, but I don't think the original would have had these given by the era when it came out, which I think was early aughts. Like
it was
between
02.
Yeah. Like you can do things like auto managing your workers, so you can set it to where like
I feel like there was some of that in the original.
Was there? I was curious to know. I just assumed it was a new quality of life. So like you can turn on worker auto management, military auto queues, things that just kind of reduce the required actions per minute to be decent at an RTS.
Human level.
Yeah, which I like. And getting to play all the different, I've played only as the Greeks and the Norse so far, and there are Egyptians and Atlanteans are the other two that I can think of. And it runs real good. It's really fun, man. It's so much fun. It's just a really fun game. I've only played 2 different factions so far, but I really like how different the Norse and the Greeks are. Because a lot of these, like when I play Age of Empires, like I know the different countries are different, but they're usually, at least in my experience, different in kind of subtle ways. Where it's like, oh well, these people have better spearmen, and these people get cavalry early, and I'm like, I don't really notice that. You know what I mean? Granted, I'm very bad at the games, so maybe people that aren't bad at them are like, how do you not notice that, you idiot? But whenever it's like slight differences in units, I don't, you know what I mean? They just look like little guys with spears and swords and arrows and stuff. Like I don't know, man. But the factions feel really distinct so far, and I'm excited to check out the Egyptians.
I had a lot of fun with Age of Myth back in the day.
It's so fun. I finally figured out how to build a stupid Titan gate and get the big Titan.
Good, yeah.
And I like that you get to kind of Company of Heroes style, like pick your play style with your different gods as you progress. So you can be like, I want to specialize in this direction. And having the god powers makes it feel weirdly God game-esque.
Yeah.
How I can just sort of like when I'm playing the Greeks, I can just be like, I'm gonna fucking lightning bolt that guy. Like fuck this one unit in particular. It's just real cool, man. It's really, really fun. Again, I can't compare the remake to the original, having not played the original. I own it on disc. I got it free, I think, when I worked at GameStop. And I just never played it. And I also got Rise of Nations at the same time. Never played that either.
Yeah. Age of Myth was one of those that I got right as I upgraded my PC back in 02. 02 or 03, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I had upgraded my computer for Warcraft 3 and was super excited for Warcraft 3, and also picked up Age of Myth and ended up liking Age of Myth more than Warcraft 3.
Man, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think out of the 2 I've played so far, the Norse might be my favorite, because instead of building the little drop-off points, so like when you're playing like the Greeks, you have to build like little lumber drop-off points and stuff, and then they, hew the trees back, and then you have to build a new lumber drop-off point. The Norse, they just have these little carts that are drop-off points, so you can have these like roving bands of gold farmers and loggers kind of moving around the map, which is it's just such a fun idea. Yeah, of not having a fixed resource point like that I can just sort of do it wherever. Anyway, really, really enjoying that. So anyone who has not played Age of Mythology and you're like me and you're like, oh, I kind of like RTSs, then man, it's really good. And I got the Because, like, here's the thing. I was just bitching in the Discord and on the show about the pricing of Sins of a Solar Empire 2.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this, but Age of Mythology did kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Where they're like, well, we got our regular edition that's like $30, and then we got our mega edition that's $50, and it includes an expansion that is not out yet. And this was explicitly what I was bitching about on the show, is I'm being sold the promise of something else. But I didn't even really think about it because it was only $50.
Yeah.
And instead of the, Sins being $80 for their, next edition up. And I was like, $50, it looks good. It looks like it comes with some extra stuff. Cool. I'll get the $50 edition, not knowing that I had just, become a terrible hypocrite in that exact moment because I didn't read carefully. This is my complaint with these fucking monetization models. It requires so much reading to know what you're buying. Like Space Marine 2 just came out, and I couldn't even parse the charts required to know what I'm buying and what I'm missing out on.
Yeah, I think I'll probably stick with just the Game Pass version of Age of Myth for now. Just
I thought it's first party. Like they just own it outright, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, if you got Game Pass, then totally check it out because it's fun. And I think it has controller support too, which I'm interested to see how that works. But I'm on PC.
I wonder if that means if it's getting Xbox support or if it's already
that would be cool. I think AOE 4 also has controller support. I'm pretty
AOE 4
sure
came out on Xbox as well.
Yeah, there you go. I hope Age of Mythology comes out on Xbox because man, it's really fun.
That'd be neat.
What have you been doing in your COVID recovery time?
So I decided to try to catch up on Vampire Survivors.
Oh my god! I keep thinking I'm gonna catch up, and I play for like 2 or 3 hours, and I'm like, "There's still more shit." Yeah. I give up.
It looks like Age of Myth is on Xbox, so that's good.
Oh, excellent! Excellent.
I might download it on there. Anyway, I've been trying to catch up on Vampire Survivors, which I'm not yet because there's just been a lot recently.
So much.
I still haven't even played through the Contra DLC yet.
I played a bit of that. It's real fun.
There's new Arcana now. There's Dark Arcana.
Oh, a whole new system of it.
The negative Arcana.
Holy shit, man.
Which I can't even figure out how to unlock most of them yet. I'm not sure if they're all in the game yet. It might be like rolling releases of them. But they're neat. I feel like I'm still discovering things in the game, which is bizarre for a game that's been out this long and for how many hours I've put into it. But they keep adding things to discover.
Yeah.
And they don't feel like just, I've got to unlock this new thing and move on. It feels more like actual discovery, like just being thrown in there and you're like, oh, what is this that just happened?
And a lot of the time what happens is I see the patch notes and they're adding so much shit that'll be like, all right, cool, Darkana, whatever, I don't know. And then I get in the game and I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's neat. I'm still enjoying it. It's still the best. Even if you buy all the DLC, I think it's under $10.
Yeah, it's the best $10 bill you're going to spend on gaming.
Best value in gaming.
I was going to say ever. I don't know.
Time.
I can't think of anything that would beat it.
Spending $0.25 on an arcade game in 1986.
Crap, that only lasts for like 10 minutes. I've been playing Vampire Survivors for like 3 years now.
Exactly, right? Yeah, it's just fantastic. There's no reason not to get Vampire Survivors if you haven't yet. So go do that. That's our second advertisement of the day.
Sponsorship block number 2.
Yeah, we're not going to ask for $1,700 from Vampire Survivors, though. You can
but Vampire Survivors, if you have insurance, will only ask for $600. So if you could just send that our way, it'd be fantastic.
Other than that, I've been doing a lot of boring nerd computer shit.
Yeah.
I've
tell me more.
I'm trying to push myself into completely getting rid of Windows.
Yeah, you kind of been wanting to be on that train for a little while.
For years, really.
I'm standing right behind you, like, yeah, do it, and then tell me how to do it. Like I'm.
so I'm getting closer. I'm nearly there at this point. Yeah. Like on my laptop, I've completely moved away. I had mentioned a few weeks ago that I had installed Arch from scratch. Only to then learn like minutes after we recorded that episode that there actually is an installer on the live CD with Arch that you can use to do all that stuff automated, and it works great.
But you did it
I did
the traditional way.
Yeah, I at least know how to do that, and I never have to do it again. But so I installed Arch on my desktop that I normally use with Windows just to play around with it, and it works great. I've had excellent luck with it, and so I started playing with weird shit within that. And the easier one that I've played with is WinApps, which is a application for Linux that lets you run Windows applications natively side by side your Windows applications, and not through Wine, but through an actual Windows virtual machine.
All right, yeah.
And this has let me use Word and Excel and other Windows applications as if they are native Linux applications.
I like this.
And it works really well. The setup was a little wonky.
Okay.
But once I got it going, it worked fantastic. The other things that I've been playing with, because it is on my desktop and because I have Steam set up on a separate drive on my desktop, I wanted to see if I could use the same Steam library between Windows and Linux without having to reinstall everything.
Right.
And you can, and it works very well. However, because Steam needs Proton to run all those Windows games in Linux, it immediately saw every game as needing an update.
Oh no!
Like all 200 games,
download
it had to download Proton for all of them. So I told it to do that, and then I rebooted into Windows, and it was like update for every single game. I'm like, oh no, it's not going to try to remove Proton, is it? But no, after I did the update in each of them once, now it is fine. I can just jump between the two, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
I did think that it was funny, though, because the machine that I was testing Arch on before I put it on my desktop, it had a wonky keyboard, right?
I'm sorry.
It's my old laptop. And
no, I clicked on a message in Discord while you were talking, and it's someone that posted an ad. This is an utter tangent, and I'm totally interrupting you, but it's just fucking killing me right now. In the Talking Wizards channel, someone posted, like, there's a tweet, and it's this movie theater advertising for their cocktails.
Yeah.
In the ad says, tired of getting up mid-movie for another drink? Your problems are solved with our monster cock. And then it cuts off.
I see that. That's great.
Oh, God. All right. Anyway. Your keyboard.
Sorry. Yeah.
Why your keyboard? I just want you to think I was laughing at you.
Yeah, good. So yeah, the keyboard on my laptop is all fuckered from years of use, and really from years of disuse, because that was the laptop that I used as a desktop for years, so it was just closed. So a couple of the keys on that keyboard don't work real well. Yeah. And so I dug out the first USB keyboard that I could find and just plugged it in, and like I'd swapped it out because I kept trying to type things and things wouldn't type. And so I've got this USB keyboard out, and I'm noticing that I'm trying to type things and things aren't typing, and then I look and I realize it's my one Spanish keyboard where the keys are in the wrong places.
Why did you keep a Spanish keyboard?
It was free.
So you don't know the layout.
It's a nice little keyboard. It's got a little built-in touchpad and everything.
You can't type on it.
I can mostly type on it. I just have to remember that those few keys are in the weird places. But yeah, I completely defeated my purpose of typing easier by grabbing the dumbest keyboard. But anyway, yeah. So in all, it is working well. WinApps. I keep wanting to call it Winamp.
Winamp.
It is not.
Good old Winamp runs great.
Yeah, it is WinApps, and it works great. It lets you run your Office and Adobe side by side. That's pretty much the only things they guarantee will work is Office and Adobe. Anything beyond Office and Adobe has issues. Yeah. And I tested a couple of things to see if I could get them to work, and no, the answer is no. If it is not Office or Adobe, it's going to have a problem.
To be fair, Office and Adobe encompasses a pretty massive amount of things. So,
however, now I'm playing with another thing called VFIO. Have you read into this at all?
No.
So VFIO is I don't remember what it stands for. I probably should have looked that up. But what it is a way to pass through a physical hardware device to a virtual machine so that it has direct PCI access to it.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So instead of it being virtualized in any way, it's just the physical hardware.
So that would mean you could game via virtual
Correct.
machine. Theoretically.
Yes. So long as you have a second video card present that can still operate your host, like if you have integrated graphics.
Because it's going to take over that graphics card.
So I've been playing with that, but my desktop doesn't have a second video card. So I installed a second video card.
Oh my God.
It was free.
Oh my God.
So I popped a video card in there as a secondary video card, and I'm still trying to work out all the kinks of the transition, because it turns out operating systems don't want to just release a video card.
Oh, you don't say.
But these people have written scripts specifically for this VFIO project. They've written scripts specifically for it that tells Linux to drop this one video card and pass it over to the virtual machine, and then, operate everything through your second video card.
Yeah.
And when it works, it's really impressive. But I'm still ironing out all of the specifics to get it to work right.
And the order and everything else.
In my configuration. But I did test it. And the way that it works is the virtual machine, in my situation, the Windows virtual machine, needs to have an output on this video card, which if I don't have it connected to an output, it just thinks that it needs to run in 640 by 480.
Right.
Because that's default.
Right.
So I had to take one of the outputs on my good video card, because it has 4 outputs, and I have it plugged into 3 monitors. So I had to use the 4th output.
Jesus Christ.
And I had to plug it into something, so I just plugged it into one of my monitors that it's already connected to.
At what point do you just enter the matrix and just get it over with?
So I have my Windows virtual machine plugged into one of my 4K monitors that also my computer is plugged into, so I could change inputs there and just use the Windows there. But I don't want to do that, because then I'm not using my Linux desktop.
Right.
So there's this program called Looking Glass that all it does is basically RDP into your virtual machine on your same computer in such a way that it shows that virtual machine's physical output in a virtual window.
Yeah.
And it works really well. Like no latency that I can tell whatsoever. So I've got this Windows virtual machine on my Linux laptop, physically outputting through my physical video card to a physical monitor, and then I've got that monitor's output virtualized in a window. It's the weirdest, wonkiest, most bizarre setup, but when it works, it's really impressive, and it's got my Game Pass games running on Linux at native full speed.
This is why when people ask, because it's a joke in the Linux community, they're like, can you do blank on Linux? And the answer is yes.
Comma.
You can do anything on Linux.
Yeah.
You might have to invent it, though.
Yeah.
But
you
have
to completely reinvent modern computing to do it. However,
the ability is limitless. You can do anything you want. How many years would you like to dedicate to it?
Yeah. How much of your life do you think you need to spend to do it? Is another question.
What you need to ask is, has someone already done this for me?
Yeah. And also, will their setup in any way translate to your setup?
And the answer is no, but it's going to be close enough that you're going to spend hours fussing with it, because it's like so close. It's almost the same as your shit.
Well, after setting all of it up on my desktop, I was like, I'm really liking the way that Arch works and how everything goes through Pac-Man, and you don't have to worry about Flatpaks, and you don't have to worry about snaps, and you don't have to worry about any of this shit. It's all through this one program installation thing. I really like that, so I want to get it working on my laptop. So I tried to get it working on my laptop with my wireless WAN and with my weird setup with my Bluetooth keyboard and mouse that I also share with my Windows computer, and they need to work on both at the same time. I could not get it to work with all of that. So I was like, fuck it, I'll stick with Mint on the laptop. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
But in the back of your head, you know.
I know.
It's not fine.
I know.
Let's do some news.
Okay.
Capcom and Apple are adding an always online requirement to the mobile ports of the Resident Evil games, which I don't know. For a phone game, I'm not that
Yeah.
upset about, but also like, fuck phone games.
So much of the mobile phone environment requires always online already that
Yeah.
I can't be too upset about this, but I'm still on principle a little upset about this.
Yeah, like, I don't like the idea, but it's a phone game.
Yeah.
I don't know. A port of the Turbo CD game Beyond Shadowgate is coming to GOG and Steam, which is cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
It's exciting thing
Right.
to see out here.
Yeah.
Microsoft and Capcom have confirmed that Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection will come to Xbox One later, because that's not the newest Xbox.
So the issue is that Capcom's recent collections, like the Mega Man Legacy collections and the Capcom Fighting collections and all those, have been made in this MT Framework thing. That's their engine that they use to make these.
Right.
And apparently MT Framework does not play nice with the native code for Series S and Series X. So the only way to get it to work on those is through the backwards compatibility with Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we haven't seen some of these Capcom collections on Xbox lately is because Microsoft is trying to not let developers release new Xbox One games.
Okay. So
But
they rescinded that opinion.
yeah, Microsoft has come to an agreement with Capcom to allow this one to come to Xbox One just so that it doesn't skip Xbox outright. And I hope
Which
that
means
they can,
this could be the last Xbox One game that releases?
as far as commercial game, yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that this opens the door for the rest of Capcom's collections to come to Xbox One.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if this is a one-off thing just because of how big Marvel is right now.
Right. Also because Marvel Cap 2
Yeah.
specifically has been pulled off the Xbox marketplace like twice now.
Yeah.
And at some point they just need to make it fucking available.
Right.
The Minecraft movie trailer dropped, and the internet lost their collective minds.
For different reasons, and I don't want to get into any of them because they're all controversial.
I don't either. I watched it and I was like, all right, standard video game movie. And then Jack Black popped out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's weird.
It's not that weird. He's been doing a lot of fan servicey movies lately.
Sure, but it's just like he's like, I'm Steve, but it's just Jack Black. Like
Yeah.
It looked like I guess what it is, it looked like he didn't even go through makeup and wardrobe. It looked like he just wandered onto the set and he's like, I know Minecraft. Can I be that Steve guy? It's very weird.
Yeah.
For anyone that had high hopes for the Minecraft movie to begin with, I'm sorry.
I don't know what you were expecting.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why did you have high hopes?
Right.
What could you possibly expect from this?
Yeah.
I know we're in the era of like the Super Mario Brothers movie was pretty good and the Sonic movies are pretty good.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen.
No.
Not going to happen. You know. The Internet Archive lost their legal appeal over their book lending lawsuit, which is yet another blow to the Internet Archive, which I think we're just going to continue seeing until one day it finally crumbles. It is.
So many things are only archived on the Internet Archive, and my first thought is, I sure hope somebody's archiving the Internet Archive.
Yeah, like, but no one is. It's the last stop.
Yeah.
It's where this stuff goes to live. It's really frustrating. It's really frustrating to see them getting hammered like this. Like, is there a lot of piracy on the Internet Archive?
Yeah.
Yes, there is, in the legal sense of the word. But I don't know. It's really sad. It's not. There is nothing remotely close to it.
Right.
There is no second. This is not like when ROM hacking shut down. It was like, I guess we have to use one of these other ROM hacking websites that aren't nearly as good, but at least exist. There is no second stop for the Internet Archive. When it's gone, we're just officially trapped in Web 3.0 or whatever fucking version we're in now. Like there's no, it's all gone. So yeah. Age of Mythology Retold released alongside $6 DLC of 22-year-old JPEGs. I also missed this because I just wandered onto the Steam page and was like, looks fun, bye. So yeah, they have some character portraits that they are selling for $6.
Yeah.
It's just JPEGs. Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition did the same fucking shit. where they released icon packs, character icon packs, and wanted to charge money for it. And it's like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop it. They're JPEGs. Quit. Just quit doing it. Balatro is getting a mobile port, shocking pretty much no one. I think we all kind of saw that this was bound to happen eventually, but I'm excited to have Balatro in more places. Because
it'll be shocking our free time.
Right. Yeah, no, every platform should have Balatro forever and until the end of time. If it was up to me, then every video game console operating system would come with Vampire Survivors and Balatro pre-installed.
Yeah,
they would just already
require you to
on
play them before you can play something else, too.
Right. So I'm not upset about this.
No,
not upset about this at all. I did watch a video about the design of Balatro. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Design Doc. I'm not sure. And I didn't realize how mysterious the developer of Balatro is.
Yeah.
Apparently, they've not revealed their name or anything. We really just know a screen name of this person. So I thought that was
they
really
do not want the public attention, which is fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Modders turned a Paw Patrol toy into a USB gamepad to play Sega's Hang On.
I love everything about that sentence you just said.
Okay. Party on, I guess. A remake of the 1993 Data East arcade game Night Slashers is coming September 26th. I feel like I remember playing Night Slashers. Did you say it doesn't look great?
Yeah, no, it kind of looks like butt.
Oh, no, I hadn't looked at it.
Yeah, graphically, I would say it looks like butt. I don't know if the game is fine or not, but
I guess we'll see.
The new art style kind of looks like butt.
Yeah. Sunsoft has more shit. They've announced Sunsoft is back, retro game selection, which is not just a weird translation. It's the name of games you can buy. It is a Switch collection of 3 previously unlocalized games, which are The Wing of Medulla, Firework Thrower Kantaro's 53 Stations of the Tokaido, which is the name of one game, and Ripple Island.
I made sure to copy paste those directly just because I wanted to see your reaction to saying that full game title.
I don't fucking know what is happening at Sunsoft. I feel like one really hardcore Sunsoft fan has broken into the offices and is just kind of doing shit, but clearly has no idea.
So
they're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to do shit.
I was going to talk about it on the next episode, but I'll go ahead and mention it now. I got my copy of Euphoria 2 in the mail today.
Oh.
I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but I did get the physical game disc, which, one, it's weird to see a Sunsoft logo on an Xbox game.
Yeah.
And 2, it came with a giant sticker on it that said Sunsoft is back.
Oh, boy.
And when I opened it up, it had another giant sticker on the inside that was identical.
Oh, God.
They're really proud of this Sunsoft is back logo.
You do you, Sunsoft.
Right?
Falcom's president said he was surprised by the announcement of Trails in the Sky the First during the recent Nintendo Direct.
I was too, but I don't work at Falcom.
Right.
So.
You think of all the people that wouldn't be surprised, president of Falcom would probably be aware of what's happening.
Yeah, apparently they had negotiated with Nintendo to have Nintendo announce it at a Nintendo Direct. They just didn't know it would be that one.
I wonder how often that happens and we don't hear about it.
Right.
So, weird. A fan demake of Mega Man X8 for PC has been released, which looks pretty good. I haven't played it yet, but it looks pretty fun.
And the style of the Super NES Mega Man X games looks really good.
And finally, Sony. Little baby Sony. Little tiny, struggling Japanese mega conglomerate Sony has announced the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is short for professional. That's what it used to mean, but I don't think that's what it means anymore because I don't know what professionals would do with a PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 Pro, which is $699 American, comes with a no disc drive, comes with a no stand.
Yeah.
And also, DualSense controllers have received a $5 price increase in most countries.
Yeah. So the PS5 Pro, if you want it to include a disc drive and a stand like the original $500 PS5 did, will cost you just over $800.
Well, then how much is a second controller?
That'll be $75, I think.
So $875 plus tax. You're pushing close to $1,000 for a system with a disc drive, a stand, and 2 controllers.
Now, also, GameStop has announced a promotion where they are going to give $415 in trade-in for an original model PS5 towards a PS5 Pro.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So if
But
you want to lose your PS5 right now to later get a Pro, you can get $415 back.
We talked about this a lot. I started a thread in Discord, and I think I named it the PS5 Pro Complaint Department.
You did, yes.
And everyone there, because we have a lot of people, including you, that own PlayStation 5s that have enjoyed the console that are like, what the fuck is this?
I don't know if enjoyed is the right word that I would use for my PS5. Like, I
You have
enjoyed some of the
tolerated
games
your
on
PS5.
it. I've enjoyed some games on it, and I really like the controller. I do think the controller is really neat. The actual user interface of the PS5 is but it's just awful. It's difficult to navigate. The PS4 was much better menu-wise.
That's hard to hear. That the PS4 was better.
Yeah.
PS4 was a shit show, is what it was. Saturn.
But it was way better than the PS5. I also like the PS4's interface better than the PS3.
How have we strayed so far from the cross-media bar? Look, no, here's the thing. None of us loved the cross-media bar. We didn't love it. But it was okay. It was functional. It wasn't ideal, but it was functional. It worked. It worked so well that RetroArch copied it for years.
Here's another hot take for me. I like the bubbles on the Vita more than I like the PS5's interface.
Oh. Can I say that I had trouble playing the Vita every time I played it because they didn't look like bubbles to me. They looked like little M&Ms, and they made me hungry every time.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, the PS5 Pro, my question is, who is it meant to be marketed towards? Because you would think that a high-end console is for enthusiasts, right?
Sure, but there's no disk drive.
Exactly. Enthusiasts are the people who want physical media.
Right. Or at the very least, people like me, because I was talking today in the chat, I was like, I'm kind of the target for this because I haven't bought a PS5 yet.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of PS4 and PS3 games that I'd like to play, which I learned that you can't play PS3 games on PS5, but okay. I still have
you can't play PS3 games on PS4 either.
Yeah. I still have a sizable PS4 collection. I wouldn't mind having something to play it on that made it, upscaled and made it look nice. But there's no disc drive, so I'd have to pay an additional $100, and then the controllers are more expensive, and I
think that the PS5 Pro announcement has been an excellent advertisement for the standard PS5.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
it makes it look like a much better value.
And then also, it was also brought up in the chat where someone was like, look, if you don't have a 4K 120 HDR variable refresh rate TV, then you're not even going to fucking notice half the shit.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, now it's got ray tracing, and we were like, we already had that, and they're like, yeah, but it's better.
Yeah,
but
what did they call it? PlayStation SSR is the new technology in it or something?
I don't know,
and it's just
but
I
we've all realized by now that they can make whatever technology available that they want.
Yeah.
It's up to the game developers to update their games to make use of it.
What gets me is I finally went back and looked at the announcement video, and they show the side-by-side, and I honestly cannot tell the difference.
I zoomed in real close and pixel peeped, and I could kind of see. But my TV is also about 12 feet away from my couch, so
I pulled it up on my TV, which is 4K 120 hertz.
Sure.
And I could not tell the difference between the two. Granted, it could have been YouTube compression or something.
Sure, maybe.
But if that's the case, why announce this on YouTube with YouTube compression and then try to show the difference?
Well, it's like when you're in Best Buy and they have the TVs and they have the line down the middle where on the left it looks like dog shit, and on the right they're like, but look how good this TV looks. And you're like, but they're both on that TV.
But on this one, they just showed the actual quality of the standard PS5, so it didn't look any different.
I just it's baffling.
Yeah.
I would say it feels like a misstep. It feels like not only kind of culturally a bad time to be announcing price increases and higher end hardware like this, but clearly we don't fucking know shit because Sony's crushing it.
Oh yeah, and there has been rumors and
we made fun of that goddamn Portal, and apparently it did well.
I don't get that one. But there has been rumors and speculation and demand for a Pro model for a little while now.
What? Who out there is like, nah, it's not good enough? Like what?
Well, there's been some discussion of there needs to be a PS5 that can keep up with the Series X as far as hardware goes. and that was the main impetus. But I don't know that this, like, for me, I am supposedly the enthusiast market that would want to buy these kinds of things, and I did buy a PS4 Pro.
I'm quite
because it supported 4K, and I had a 4K TV, and so I wanted to be able to see 4K. And my current TV is 4K. It's 144 hertz with variable refresh rate.
Yeah.
I don't see any benefit to the PS5 Pro because my PS5 already supports that, and my Xbox Series X already supports that.
Yeah.
So I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I think we're just old.
Yeah, we are. That's true.
I think if we got like a 20-year-old college guy in here that like all his friends had PlayStations, he'd be like, yeah, we're all fucking stoked on it.
No, one of the guys at work is in his early 20s, and he recently got his PS5. Yeah. And I was asking him about the Pro, and he said, I don't see why I need that. So even the early 20s, I just don't know who the market is.
Like if I was going to buy one, the disc drive is the deal breaker for me because I'd want it to play my backwards compatible games that are all on disc.
I mean, you can get the disc drive for it, but that's getting the price close to
right. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I'm paying $300 additional dollars, and like
which even with the base model PS5, you have to buy the disc drive separate now.
What? Well, I thought there were two models. There's one without, and then one that comes with it.
Well, okay, so with the Slim, the current model PS5, they only made one hardware configuration, and the bundle that comes with it is just the external disc drive in the same box so that you can attach it.
Okay, but it's $499, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's weird, but I'm more okay with that.
Right.
Well, let's do the topic. It brings us to our topic at hand, which is Warren Spector, the Deus Ex guy. He also made other games and shit. That's that guy, Warren Spector. Biographical info: born on October 2nd, 1955, grew up in Manhattan, New York. First encounters: I didn't know who the fuck this man was until Epic Mickey. In other words, here's the thing. Warren Spector seems like a great guy. He's done a lot of extremely influential things, and we're going to get into it. I would say that maybe a lot of his bigger influence stuff was before Epic Mickey. So I don't want to say something like after his career had already taken a downturn or whatever. But I didn't hear about him until way late. Because Epic Mickey was coming out, and I was working at GameStop at the time because it was like 05-ish, 06-ish, whatever. And everyone was like, "Oh, Warren Spector's making a new game," and I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" And then they were like, "The Deus Ex guy," and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And so then I went and played Deus Ex on Xbox.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Deus Ex, Invisible War.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I don't know, man. It kind of seems like fucking dog shit. Who gives a shit about this fucking guy? I had no idea. And then I did not return. I left. I played like 2 hours of Invisible War, and I was like, so what's the big deal with this fucking Warren Spector guy? And just moved on with my life. So that was my first encounter with Warren.
Invisible War.
Warren Spector.
What a disaster.
Yeah.
I've played several of those games off and on over the years. I think Deus Ex was the first time I remember hearing his name in magazines and hearing people make a big deal about him. But I didn't super follow his career, and when I went back to look at it for this episode, I realized I missed a lot of it over the years. So it was it flew by me, but I do still appreciate several of his games even now.
Yeah. Well, let's get into his early career, which is very tabletop oriented.
Yeah, a lot of tabletop stuff here.
So I did fact check some of this, and I have some issues with some of the facts that exist out there, but we'll get into that.
So he apparently grew up in Manhattan and then attended Northwestern University just outside of Chicago before attending University of Texas at Austin for his master's in radio, television, and film. And in college, he was a big fan of board games, particularly Avalon Hills games and some of the early stuff from Steve Jackson games. And through friends, he ended up getting into D&D.
Yeah. And I was watching, I think he has more than one, but I was watching one of his GDC talks. I think it was a post-mortem on Deus Ex. And he does cite one of his early D&D games as kind of the direct inspiration for Deus Ex. And it was the idea that the story wasn't set and that they, as players, got to tell the story, and they were just kind of given a framework for the story, which is
kind of guide where the story goes.
Which is a very good description of what tabletop RPGs are all about. And what I love about them. And I say D&D. I say D&D for to give mercy to those around me. I think the game might have actually been a cyberpunk game, which is a different tabletop role-playing game. But I know he did also play D&D. So specifically, one of these early tabletop role-playing games, and he cited the person, and I had them looked them up before, and I've forgotten their name since. But they've done some things too. And so that was his big like aha moment where he wanted to make Deus Ex the everything game, as it was called briefly. And this is where the initial idea of it came from. This game that like you just are given sort of a story framework, and you can kind of play around in there and do whatever you want. So that was neat.
I know Deus Ex is about 25 years old, so I hate to spoil it, but it turns out it did not end up being the everything game.
Oh no!
I know.
Also, for a short period, he was teaching undergraduates at UT Austin on film criticism because he wanted to be a film critic when he was younger. That was a career he had in mind, and goes with his degree. Film criticism is what he kind of wanted to do for a little bit there.
Right. And so it's kind of strange that he did veer so hard into game development, but I feel like it did fit for him as far as
and
the trajectory he took.
You see that from a lot of these tabletop guys too, which is kind of he's had two pivots, film criticism into kind of tabletop gaming, into kind of video gaming.
Right.
And so you do see these pivots a lot of people that want to be like creative or writers or something like that, and then they pivot into tabletop, and then they pivot into video games later.
Right. Which really, in some regards, it just ends up being a different medium of storytelling.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's the core element of all of it is telling stories in interesting mediums.
Right. So after he finished college, he did get a job at Space Gamer magazine, which was published by Steve Jackson Games as an editor. And within the next year following that, he had become the editor-in-chief for all of Steve Jackson Games, not just the magazine. So clearly, he had gotten some attention there.
And for people that don't know, Steve Jackson Games, SJ Games, is still around.
Yeah.
They do Ogre, they do Car Wars, they do Munchkin, they do they just got done re-releasing the Fantasy Trip. Like Steve Jackson's still around. He's still doing shit. Like Steve Jackson Games is still very much a force in the tabletop gaming world. They have not gone anywhere.
Yeah, if you go anywhere that sells tabletop games, you're gonna see that name.
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
Absolutely. So one of his earliest projects at Steve Jackson Games was Toon, which is a relatively well-known tabletop game. Really? I got a friend who's obsessed with it.
I had never even heard of it until this episode.
Oh, really?
And I would say there aren't a lot of things I have a decent knowledge of in the world, but tabletop RPGs is one of them. No, I'd never heard of this. Now, granted, I was never big into Steve Jackson games, so maybe in the Steve Jackson
I've got a friend
world.
who's obsessed with Toon.
Really?
It is like he was constantly trying to talk people into games of it. He is... Granted, some of his other interests probably overlap with Toon more than my interests do, so I can see how he could have ended up there. But that was one of the tabletop games that I was always pitched, was him telling me to play Toon. So maybe I was just more aware of it than I should be.
Maybe, or maybe just in that era it was a bigger deal than. Because you see that a lot where, especially in the tabletop world, games will be a big flash in the pan for a year or two and then just disappear. So it could also be that I was just too young.
Yeah. So he had co-developed that with Greg Kostikian. I'm hoping I'm saying that right.
Kostikian is how I've been pronouncing it.
Yeah. Who was apparently a high school friend of his, and that ended up being his first full RPG that he developed with Steve Jackson Games.
I want to say, and this is just me guessing, I think Greg Kostikian might have been one of his D&D friends or tabletop RPG friends that he was playing with, but
presumably,
I don't have hard details. Kostikian himself is a pretty notable designer just in the tabletop space. He worked at West End Games, designing the very well-remembered and recently re-released Star Wars RPG, the D6 West End Games System one. And West End Games released a lot of these D6 systems back in the day. But the Star Wars D6 is probably the most well-remembered one that they came out with. And he's still working in games, so he hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, he's gone somewhere, but you know what I mean. He hasn't left. He hasn't gone to a different industry. Still in games, so it's nice to see.
You know, it feels weird sometimes because when we look at video game histories, normally, a lot of these companies and developers, their history is relatively short. It's, 30, 40 years max. Whereas the tabletop industry obviously extends quite a bit further than that.
Yes.
So when we're looking at video game developers, thinking of them still being in the industry is not normally that surprising. But for some reason, when we're talking about this tabletop world, it feels slightly more exciting that some of these people from 40 years ago are still doing it.
Yeah, well, and then a lot of the early vestiges of the tabletop world have, a good decade and a half on like the 8-bit era of gaming.
Right.
Granted, gaming kind of really started kicking off in the way we recognize it in the mid to late 70s, which was not far off from the sort of advent of like tabletop RPGs as we know them. But I feel like gaming had a little bit more of a getting the ball rolling thing into the mid 80s before it was really like
it needed the tech to catch up before it really hit its stride.
And that could just be our age talking. I mean, I feel like for us, gaming starts at the NES era forward.
Oh, see, for me, gaming starts with like the Asteroid Space Invaders Pac-Man era forward.
Okay, so late 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s, yeah. Anyway, where were we?
Oh, yeah. So while he's working at Steve Jackson Games, he meets the woman who ends up becoming his wife at a local comic book shop in Austin. And she also eventually got a job at Steve Jackson Games, and then the two began dating and eventually were married in 87. And she was also a developer for a lot of these tabletop games.
Yes, Caroline Chase. She was probably, among other things, an advertising manager at Steve Jackson Games, but was credited with some work on Toon, which is this is very common in the tabletop space. Like when you're playtesting a game, it's not like a video game where you're like, all right, send it over to the QA people. You just playtest it with your friends, your family, everybody else, and it very much turns into a collaborative kind of thing. So you end up getting a lot of names on a project.
And also you had smaller companies back then, really for all of the entertainment industry. You had smaller companies back then.
Yeah.
So more people had more hands in the pot. And then over the next couple of years, Spector worked on a handful of other projects, including Paranoia and GURPS.
GURPS is huge.
Yeah. So
massive.
that's why I made sure to note that in there.
Yeah.
Then in March of 87, he left Steve Jackson Games to join TSR, who obviously the D&D people.
Yep. Tactical Studies Rules.
And at TSR, he and his wife Caroline contributed to several projects, including Top Secret SI, the Marvel Superheroes RPG, and Spelljammer.
So he was an editor for Top Secret.
Okay.
And he wrote for Marvel Superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
His role on Spelljammer seems lost to the ages. I cannot find him credited anywhere for work on Spelljammer. And I went through quite a few pieces of Spelljammer materials and did not see his name anywhere. Now, does that mean he didn't work on it? No. Yeah. That does not mean that, because again, these are the tabletop gaming world is extremely collaborative. Like there are not dedicated playtesters in tabletop game. There might be these days, but back then there were not. It wasn't like you had your Q&A guys or whatever. It was just all a bunch of people sitting in a room pretending to be wizards together and then writing shit down. Like that's what it was.
Right.
But I could not find him credited on anything Spelljammer related. Which I was excited that Warren Spector worked on Spelljammer because it's so cool.
I wonder if it's one of those things where like he had worked on the project but then left the company, and so they took his name off of it because somebody else took over whatever role he was doing.
Maybe, and especially in the late 80s, this is an extremely volatile time in TSR. This is the kind of the last years of TSR before they get bought up, and this is also the AD&D second edition era where they really struggled. There's a lot of internal drama at TSR in the late 80s. Before it all kind of crumbles away, and the company had some major struggles. So it's possible that people just weren't credited appropriately, or maybe I just didn't find the one module that's got Warren Spector's name on it. That's also possible. But
there's a chance that whatever work he did ended up getting scrapped and replaced by the time the project released too.
Also possible. Yeah. But let's talk video games. Tell me about the video games, Saturn.
Well, so you play them on a television.
Uh-huh.
And they're made of electrons instead of wooden pieces.
And where can I tell the video game what I would like my character to do? I would like to describe.
You just shouted at Siri.
All right, great.
She does it. Oh, okay.
Hey, Siri, I cast Fireball. Hope
hey,
someone's
Justin,
Siri.
You do 7 damage.
7? What?
Yep.
On 66? Fucking rip off. This algorithm sucks. Tell me about his early video game years.
So in '89, he left TSR to join Origin, which feels like a very natural progression point.
Sure.
TSR to Origin, they basically feel like the Western RPG staples of their respective industries of that time period.
Totally.
So at Origin, he served as producer or writer for several games, including Ultima 6 and Wing Commander, a game we're never going to mention again. That was it. That's the only mention it gets.
You're welcome.
Then in 90, Spector and Origin founder Richard Garriott, a.k.a. King British.
Lord British.
Lord British.
Which I learned he was called that because he was at like a camp in Oklahoma. And this is just Lord British lore. I don't know if it's true or not. But I heard he was called that because he was at like a summer camp or something in Oklahoma, and some kids ran up to him and like said hi or something, and he said hello. That's it. And they were like, "Who says hello? What are you, British?" That was it. That is the.
That's the thing. You're not allowed to say hello unless you're British. That's the law.
He didn't say howdy, so they're like, "Oh, you're some fancy fuck." Because to Americans, all British people are fancy.
That's true. Yeah,
that's
very
just
prim and proper
rules.
Or they're Dick Van Dyke. That's the only two options.
That's
and Dick Van Dyke, who isn't even British.
Anyway,
yeah. So it was in 1990. Spector and Richard Garriott were shown a demo of a game that would become Ultima Underworld from Blue Sky Productions. And they agreed to finance the project, which started a close working relationship between Spector and Blue Sky, who would eventually be renamed Looking Glass Studios shortly after the game's release. And Spector and Looking Glass Studios worked together on several games during Spector's time at Origin, including Ultima Underworld 2 and the original System Shock, which is a notable game.
Yeah.
And eventually, Spector decided he would leave Origin and join Looking Glass Studios as the general manager of their new Austin branch.
Yeah.
And at Looking Glass, Spector worked briefly on the project that would eventually become Thief the Dark Age. And ultimately, he made the decision to shut down the Austin branch due to Looking Glass's financial issues at the time.
Yeah.
And
to be clear, this era is what people consider the birthplace from Ultima Underworld is considered the first immersive sim.
Yes.
Which is not a genre designation we really use anymore, but was one that was used up through the kind of the early aughts.
Right.
Before everything just became games.
And Warren Spector was kind of the he was seen as one of the grandfathers of this
absolutely
burdening or new genre.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after the dissolution of Looking Glass Austin, Spector was recruited by John Romero to join Ion Storm.
According to him, John Romero called him on the phone and he was like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to come, do that thing with you." And John Romero was like, "You have an unlimited budget." The promise was he was like, "As much money as you want to spend."
Yeah, just the unlimited budget. Do whatever you want with it.
Also, I watched Warren Spector in a conference room at GDC challenge everyone in the room. He said John Romero loves games more than anyone else in this room. And then paused for a moment, presumably so that if anyone challenged him, he would shoot him on the spot. I don't know. But yeah, no, he called him and it was like unlimited money.
I assume the pause was if anybody did want to challenge John Romero would leg wrestle him.
Right. John Romero he was waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
He was getting oiled up, ready to come out and power slam whoever challenged him.
I just like the idea of in the middle of a GDC talk, John Romero comes out and leg wrestles people.
Yeah, that's John Romero with the steel chair.
So Spector formed what would become Ion Storm Austin. It was one of the co-founders of Ion Storm, and so his first big budget project at Ion Storm with his unlimited budget was Deus Ex, which did go on to become a huge hit for the studio. And during the development of Deus Ex, Ion Storm was acquired by Eidos, who would end up becoming the publisher of the game. And in July of 2001, Eidos shut down the original Dallas headquarters of Ion Storm, leaving Austin as the only Ion Storm. So this spinoff that Warren Spector founded was suddenly the entire studio.
Yeah.
And while he was at Ion Storm, he did oversee the development of Deus Ex Invisible War, though he was not as hands-on as he was with the original game.
Yeah.
He also oversaw Thief Deadly Shadows, which was neat that's a sequel to a game that he had previously overseen before leaving his previous company. And then he left Eidos and Ion Storm in May of 2004, citing personal interests, and Eidos would shut down Ion Storm a few months later in February of 2005. So it feels like Ion Storm was always kind of on shaky ground its entire life.
Too beautiful for this world. A creator-driven studio with unlimited budgets.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, this cannot stand.
Well, without John Romero and his Pantene Pro V, they couldn't remain as beautiful. So
right. It was the Pantene Pro V budget that pushed them over the top. They're like,
right.
John, we can't afford it. And he was like, I promise everyone an unlimited shampoo budget. John, I said it. I've said it before. We make fun of John Romero all the time. By all accounts,
it's easy.
He's the greatest person.
Oh yeah, he seems
so
like just the
awesome.
nicest, friendliest person.
Just want to keep saying that.
Yeah, but it's still really easy to make fun of him because he made some questionable decisions in the 90s.
Sure.
And
we all
did.
did.
Really easy to make fun of.
We all did.
But we weren't as public as he was about it.
But one of his better decisions was giving Warren Spector an unlimited budget for Deus Ex.
True. Correct.
Tell me about Junction Point.
Yeah. So after Ion Storm shut down, Spector formed a new studio called Junction Point Studios. And one of their first projects was an additional episode for Half-Life 2 in episode 3. It was canceled. We never saw it.
Thanks, Valve. You fucking did it.
And then following the cancellation of some other project, Junction Point finally reached a deal with Disney to develop a game based on Mickey Mouse and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Which is what you do after you make Deus Ex.
This was a weird turn.
Yes. Apparently, he was a big fan of Disney and the classic Disney characters, and this was something he wanted to do. So, I'm all for it. If this is a passion project,
look, at this point, you invented the immersive sim,
right?
Made all the megaton hits in the genre that still remain the megaton hits to today.
And
on an unlimited budget, worked on some of the most notable tabletop RPGs in the industry. Just do whatever looks fucking fun, man. Like, you did it. You did it, Warren. Just go have fun, man.
And I wonder if, there's still some, a direct through line between Toon and Epic Mickey. If it's he just was that passionate about classic cartoons.
Did not even occur
that it eventually becomes this.
Yeah.
So anyway, during the 4-year-long development of Epic Mickey, which that's a long time for a game in, the early mid 2000s.
Especially one that's kind of a kid-oriented action platformer.
Yeah, because kids' games don't always make their money back. That's a huge development period. They were acquired by Disney during this development. And then they would go on to put out Epic Mickey in 2010 and Epic Mickey 2 in 2012. And then Disney shut down Junction Point the following year in 2013. Along with most of the rest of Disney Interactive. So it wasn't specifically an attack on Junction Point. It was just Disney was dissolving their video game business. But also they might have been attacking Junction Point for how much these games cost to develop.
Yeah.
Because they were massive projects.
They were, and they reviewed kind of middling. Having worked at a game store at the time, I haven't looked up sales, but they weren't flying off the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
I was out the door by 2012, but I remember Epic Mickey coming out. I remember it being a big deal, and I remember because again, at the time, I didn't know who Warren Spector was.
Yeah.
And I remember Epic Mickey getting all this coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who fucking cares? Like, you got to keep in mind, this is Disney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this isn't Disney that was in like their 90s slump Disney, but this is like pre-Marvel Star Wars Disney.
Yeah.
You know, well, I guess they had a couple Marvel movies out by this time.
I think this was before they bought Marvel, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been, because when was that? When did they buy them?
I thought it was 2012, 2013 they bought Marvel, something like that.
Yeah. So this is, they're kind of in this era where like, what's going on with Disney, right?
Yeah.
They're very much, I feel, in a renaissance right now, mostly because they acquired all of the good shit, and then, you know, how it goes.
Made all the money on it.
But it was weird at the time, at least being a 17-year-old kid working at a game store. I was like, what a weird fucking game to release.
Well, this was during the era when there was rumors that Disney was about to get bought by Comcast.
Oh yeah.
And also from somebody who like I'm one of those people that always read way too much about the game industry.
Yeah.
It was always a passion of mine. And here we are in 2010. This is a few years before a next generation consoles, the heart of the X360 PS3 Wii era.
Uh-huh.
And suddenly the Deus Ex guy is working on a Mickey Mouse game that is exclusive to the Wii.
Yeah. Yes.
And none of this makes sense to me.
It's fucking weird.
I bought it. Of course I bought it.
I never played it. It looked bad, and it had middling reviews.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty fun. I liked the dark take on Disney mythos, which it's still child appropriate, but it is much darker than what Disney usually goes to.
Yeah.
Like you see the clock from the It's a Small World ride get all evil and start attacking you while like a minor key version of the music plays. And that's weird and not what you expect from Disney. And I appreciated that.
Sure.
But it is a pretty mediocre game.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that was the 4-year development turned into that.
Warren's career doesn't end here, but it does sort of reach a kind of point where it's like, it kind of seems like he's just doing what seems like fun after this.
Yeah, he goes on to join a company called Other Side Entertainment that was founded by other people from Looking Glass. So it's people he's worked with in the past. And he advised on Underworld Ascendant, which was a spiritual successor to Ultima Underworld that was kickstarted the year before he even joined the company, but he did join the company and helped work on it.
And it's available on Steam right now, $29.99, and has bad reviews.
Yeah, I have not heard great things about it.
Oh, pardon me, never mind. Mostly negative.
Yeah, that's rough. And then they were also working on System Shock 3 at one point alongside Night Dive Studios. And then some things happened, and they just stopped working on it in 2019. And at one point, he had said, no, we're still working on it. And then like a year later, he was like, no, we had stopped working on it before I said that. There was some legal reasons we had to say we were working on it, but we were not working on it.
Yeah.
And it's more or less canceled now. Currently, they're working on a multiplayer immersive sim called Argos Riders of the Storm, which may or may not be in development hell. So it kind of feels like it feels like he's been in a bad place for almost 10 years.
I think he's just like, from my perspective, right? You know, he went from, 1980, 3, I think, mid 80s, worked constantly in games on massively influential things all the way into the early 2000s. And I think he's just coasting. I think he's kind of where Molyneux is now, where he's just like, although Molyneux was on fucking stage at something, what was that, Gamescom or some shit? They're like, Peter Molyneux's here. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why did you let him come here to lie to us? And I think he's just kind of in that stage where he's just like, I'm just going to do it. Looks fun. And if it's not working out, or if I'm not feeling it, I'm going to quit fucking doing it. And I don't and we have titles listed here. The guy that worked on Ultima Underworld, System Shock, Deus Ex, Thief Deadly Shadows. Like, yeah, I get it, man. You can kind of just rest on your laurels and be like, yeah, maybe we do another something one day, but I got to be feeling it, you know?
Maybe he took some of that Romero unlimited budget and put it in his pocket so he could retire early.
Maybe, yeah. Just one blank check from John Romero. You can retire on. So I don't know. For this one, for whatever reason, doesn't feel like a sad story to me. It feels like, you know, you see like that band that had all their hits in the 80s and 90s, and you find out they're still touring and they're still coming out with new music. And you're like, why? Everyone likes your hits. And they're like, yeah, man, we just like making music and touring. We know that like our hits are already out there. I guess I'm describing Rush. Before Neil Peart died, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, Rush is still
basically
making
the Rush of video games.
Rush is still making albums. Why? They made 2112. They can fire off into the universe and exist amongst the gods now. Like, why are they still doing anything? But they're just like, yeah, we just fucking love touring, and we can't get Geddy Lee to get the fuck off the stage. So we're just gonna. I don't know why this turned into a weird Rush analogy, but that's what I feel from him, rather than it being like a sad deflation. Just like, he fucking did what he wanted and made some insanely influential games, and then just was like, all right, I'm just going to kind of chill and do what looks fun, you know?
I feel like Epic Mickey was a little sad, though, because, one, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I also didn't realize I had a 4-year development cycle.
That is rough.
4 years in that era, and it comes out kind of mediocre, that's kind of sad to me, and it feels like it was kind of a wet fart to go out on.
I honestly feel like they only did Epic Mickey 2 to recoup some costs that they invested in the first game. Like you feel that,
and I feel like that's why Epic Mickey 2 is multi-platform, was just to try to recoup some of those costs.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I guess we're getting into final thoughts, but his career doesn't feel as sad to me as like when we covered Peter Molyneux.
Yeah.
You know, and it could just be because these are still insane megaton hits on his resume here. You know, like the same guy did Ultima Underworld, Wing Commander, System Shock, Deus Ex, and Thief Deadly Shadows.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit,
that's not the best of the Thief games, but...
Right, you know, but they're all still, well, I don't know. There was that newer one that came out that was just called Thief Again that I don't think was as well received. But before that one, they were all pretty much like, yeah, the Thief games are all pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, and then allegedly worked on Spelljammer and Marvel Superheroes RPG and Top Secret and GURPS. You know, like this is an insane resume.
Right. Worked alongside Steve Jackson and Lord British, you know.
Yep. Lord British. That's how you have to say it.
Right, my bad.
I'm comes sorry. Into the room. So yeah, I don't know. It definitely, there were some bumps along the road there, but I just think he just kind of hit a good stride in the middle of his career, put out some amazing work, and just kind of can coast. You know, like it's like I feel like we're like, that's good, Warren. You can rest now.
Right.
You gave the world Deus Ex.
Right.
Go make your Epic Mickey, and we'll just all enjoy, you know, that we still have you around.
And even if his most recent games aren't, you know, absolute blockbusters, his influence on the industry is hard to be compared against, just because so many people have stated System Shock or Deus Ex as influences in the last 10, 15 years.
Totally. They still remain insanely influential. And I mean, he's got to be, what, 1955 pushing 70 now?
Yeah.
You know, like for everyone holding out hope for him to have some kind of career renaissance, the guy's, you know,
he's 68.
He's almost 70. Like, he's probably just like, nah, dog, I'm good. I gave you Deus Ex. Fucking, there you go. You're done.
Hey, you kids figure it out now.
So, you know,
I looked up Lord British as we were saying that, and I like that the first sentence of his Wikipedia article is Richard Garriott is a British-born video game developer, entrepreneur, and private astronaut.
What the fuck is a private astronaut?
That means he has gone to space, but not with NASA.
Oh, I just can't believe that's on his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, that's yeah. Anyway, sorry for that distraction.
Anyway, We have a Patreon.
Completely destroyed your segue entirely.
At patreon.com/retro warriors, you can get all the other shit that we do.
Maybe you can be a private astronaut.
Maybe you can be a private astronaut with the Patreon. I don't fucking know, man. Look, just go there. Would you just go there, please? I know there's some of you out there. You fucking hear it every week, and you're driving in the car on the way home from work, and you're like, oh, yeah, I need to go check out their Patreon. I was going to do that. And then you fucking don't. You don't. You lie to us about it. You tell us in your head that you're going to do it, and then you don't. You fucking don't do it. Just go to it. Or go get in the Discord. I don't know. I'm not your dad.
Discord.
We want to thank the following patrons for doing more than you did.
Wow.
Okay. I thought I'd do like a good cop, bad cop kind of routine.
Oh, okay.
For this my new marketing technique
this time.
Yeah. We want to thank the following patrons, starting with Andrew Malwitz
and Matt Kovacs.
Riker looks way better without a beard.
Are you just gonna lie like that?
Said a liar.
Nico.
Noah says Google tomato frog.
I'll Google what I want to Google. Free Code Camp Quincy Larson.
Robert Vieira Jr.
Mark Meredith.
Idiot Man.
And Todd Bass.
That's what they wrote. I wasn't insulting anyone. I did insult people before I said the names.
Right.
That was a separate and unrelated to that insult. Anyway, that's Warren Spector's entire life, everything about him ever encapsulated into
we
one.
Mentioned Deus Ex, and we mentioned he got married. I think that's it.
Yeah,
that's all of it.
He made Day of Sex.
Day of Sex.
There you go. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week, and as always, let us cling together.